What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Everyday Show. I'm Nadeska here with my guys, DJ Akademiks and Wayno. It's not like we do this every morning, like 4 days a week. Right. What's good, man? Wake up.
Yeah, I'm chilling, man.
What's up,
I'm chilling.
Back for another eulogy today?
No, we're past that. We're past that. We're moving on to greener pastures. Listen, someone died yesterday, but people are born today. You know what I mean? Still to my man Adonis.
What?
All right.
Yo, what?
Yo,
you wildin'.
Let's just get into it. I don't know what you're talking about right now, but look, earlier this week.
Hold on, man. Before we get into it, man.
What?
I got all type of beef. I got to call him out on the show. I got all type of beef. I'm hearing that my man Wayno, put your feet on the goddamn. I hear there's some special kicks, some Travis Scott. I'm not a big kick fanatic, but
we know.
How the hell we got sneaker shopping up here and I ain't getting them joints exclusively? Where'd you get them?
Whoa, hold up. Wayno gets his own sneakers.
Yeah, I know you do get
Wayno is his own sneaker plug.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm my own.
What kind of plug you got?
I don't have no plug.
That's what I'm saying. We're supposed to have the plug up here.
My plug is a couple $. That's what my plug is.
Oh, I don't need them free 99.
Nah, you ain't getting these free.
How you been here for a year and you're trying to ask Wayno to pull favors for you at Complex? You're doing
crazy.
something wrong with
No, not at Complex. I'm just saying, why am I at Complex when the sneaker guy is not hooking me up with exclusive joints and Wayno is out sneaking me?
I'm sneaking him,
man.
Come on, I've been doing this shit forever, B. You know that term?
Pull out this. I ain't gonna lie.
Shit.
Shout out to you. Know what I mean, I ain't trying to give out free plugs or nothing, but shout out to Michelin Ness. They said, man, we can't have this nigga Wayno out fitting to you, man. Let's get it, man. It's a competition.
All right, you gotta start.
I'm mad that I don't have shirts with eagles on them.
Okay, this actually costs a lot. This is from.
I'm
sorry.
It
is. This is.
How much you paid for that? Please tell me not more than $2.
This is $400. It's more.
Cut it out. You got ripped off.
Guess what? Because it's $400 does not mean that shit is dope. Because that shit is not dope.
This shit is dope, man.
No, it's not.
It's dope. You know, first of all, you know I got a weird body. This shit fits perfect. Whoever designed this shit.
Right.
Do you pay extra for things to hug your curves?
No, I pay extra for shit that I can't pronounce. Marcello Burlon. Look it up. Look it up.
I've been wearing a lot of red.
No, like ball mane and all that type of stuff. You stop wearing like what?
I say you've been wearing a lot of red lately, man. What's going on?
You know what? Like red makes my cheeks like, you know what I mean, pop. You know what I mean? All down.
Whoa.
It really brings out the shape in his thighs.
Yeah,
let's get into the show. Let's get into the show. All right, so earlier this week we spoke about Rap-A-Lot CEO J Prince advising Drake not to respond to Pusha T's diss. Now in a new interview with Sway, he says that Drake actually has a diss song that would end both Kanye West and Pusha T. Let's check this out.
Did have a response ready though, huh, Drake?
Oh, no doubt about it.
You heard it?
But let me say this here: the ingredients, the ingredients was overwhelming. You know what I mean? I know for a fact that it would have been bad for Kanye and my man. You know what I mean?
That song got out.
Yeah, it just wouldn't be good. You know, it's beyond music at that point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's gonna affect the livelihood. It's gonna interfere with his whole lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? From that day forward. So.
Did you have him press the delete button? Because I'm wondering, since it was made, if there's a chance it could eventually leak.
No, I don't think it would leak because, he gave his word.
All right, so shout out to Sway and Tracy. So he said it was beyond music. I mean, Pusha's diss was way beyond music. Are you guys buying this? Is that why Drake decided not to drop it?
I'm not gonna lie, and by the way, I know J Prince is no liar. But I did read a couple different things of how he was explaining this phantom diss track that we'll never hear. And by the way, to all the hackers, if y'all got to send it to me, it's going out. But one thing I read is him saying that it's just way beyond music. And I'm thinking it's either two things. Number one, J Prince heard the shit and said, Drake, what type of whack-ass response is this? Man, do not put this out. Either that or most likely it would be this option where it just lacks tact and just very classless. Something that we don't associate Drake with. Mm-hmm. And we know, like, we had a discussion here, like, yo, Drake, get disrespectful, get disrespectful. But what other way did we want him to get disrespectful other than just, like, overtly, like, yo, suck my dick, blah, blah. Like, we kind of wanted that. However, that's not Drake. You get me? So when I'm hearing him saying, yo, it just crosses the lines or whatever, who knows? You know what I mean? Again, Drake has been around Kanye's family. Kanye's family's Kim and all them. I don't want to hear what secret he got about that.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
At this point, does it even matter? like to say something that's not gonna come out. It's like when somebody says, "Yo, I'm gonna tell you another time." You like, no, just say it. Like, at this point, who really cares if the
Maybe he
shit
feels
is...
like he's doing Drake a service here, being like, hey, look, he had a really good reason for not dropping that song.
I feel him, but at the same time, you gotta remember that's his man. Like, of course, I would say that if that was my man. Like, nah, he got the most shit, but y'all ain't gonna hear it. But it's crazy. Like, it's a tactic as well. I mean, if we're not gonna hear it, then we can't judge it. So what's the point?
I do have a question for you though, right?
What?
So where is this line? Because again, you know what I mean? And I seen even Flex say it was like, yo, this is rap battle. So from your stance in hip hop, where is that line of, yo, we're getting at each other. Yeah, some shit's gonna be personal said back and forth, but then there's a line of like, yo, this is kind of gossipy. You're bringing in people's families, and a lot of times it becomes a narrative. Like, you know, with like Pac and Big, like when Pac said, "That's why I fucked your bitch," like niggas didn't even care that was the truth. It just sounded too good for us to not believe it.
Right.
So imagine something of the sort, or some narrative gets created from this back and forth that's now so personal. You're trying to win the public over by just saying the worst thing you could. Now a narrative gets spawned up about somebody's wife or
but it's
kids
also
or whoever.
It's also how you play it, because Big also said when Pac said that if Faith have twins, she probably have two Pacs. Get it? Two Pac. Like, so he played off of that as well. I think
But if you hear Faith's side to that,
yeah, it's a different.
Biggie gave her hell about that.
It's a different thing, but I mean, honestly, we're not gonna hear this shit. It's like, it's just so this.
We gonna hear it, bro.
We gonna hear it?
Why?
But
I don't think we gonna hear it when we want to.
Yeah.
But man, if they got reference tracks leaking from the OVO
It's
sweatshop,
gonna leak
this
in
one's
5
gonna leak.
years. Yeah, I think it's probably his relationship with Kanye that really complicates things, right? I feel like if it was just Pusha, maybe he still would have done it, but he's secretly, what he says, secretly respected and idolized Kanye for years. It's up and down. Maybe he just doesn't want to cross the line. He can't.
This is another
uncross.
thing, though.
Well,
hold on. This
go
is
ahead.
another thing, though. You're responding to Pusha T, bro.
yeah.
Why the hell am I hearing that this diss track is gonna just violate Kanye? You're telling me you got nothing for the man who's violating you? That's a little bit, I'm like,
But
maybe
that's
the
why-
100,000 you put out didn't get nothing back.
But that's
Those
why I felt-
skeletons come out, so if I can't get you, I'm gonna get your mans. I understood and I defended him going at Kanye for about half of the Duppy freestyle because he was saying, yo, you trying to still get at me about ghostwriting, your man has a lot of help.
Right.
So I'm gonna just show you you're a hypocrite. But if now we're talking about personal jabs, why you bring Kanye back into it?
Well, there's no, in rap battles, I mean,
There's no rules?
there's no rules, yo. There's no rules. I mean, when Jay did Super Ugly, it took Jay's mom. Like, Jay said that his mother made him say, nah, like, you're wildin' with how you're talking. It took his mom to step in. So it's like, I don't, there's no.
Was when you heard it and even now?
Yeah.
You say, yeah, Jay, you tweaked, man.
No,
you
I
went
just
over
felt
the
like,
boundary you
I
should-
felt like it wasn't, I felt like it really wasn't good. Now, after that, you had Blueprint 2, which that was a record where he got at Nas, and then you had Last Real Nigga Alive on Godson album, where they would both dissing each other, but they were kind of subbing each other on it. Those were both like good to finish it out and leave it alone after that, but there is no real lines. Like, what's the line when you, if me and you are snapping on each other, I'm gonna snap on you until you cry, until you walk away, until you want to fight me, because that means I won. So I'm gonna say any and everything to get you out of place. So if it takes you saying any and everything to get a person out of place, by all means. Now that we're never gonna hear this shit, or we're not gonna hear it for 5 years until we don't care, what does it even matter?
Hey, I know. Okay, so we might not hear it for whenever, but you know, this is everyday show. We gonna speculate.
Yo, definitely gonna speculate. I'm here
This
for
is-
speculation.
The first thing I'm gonna speculate before I think about even the content and substance of this track.
Right.
Drake definitely in his feelings. Drake definitely in his feelings, and I'm drawing that assumption because, first of all, I see Drake on Instagram typing some real sad ass messages, talking about nobody knows me but me. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about, Drake? You get me? And then just basically how emotional I could imagine this track is. I'm thinking it's again, we're snapping at each other.
Right.
You know, if you hit a nerve with me, I'm
Yeah.
going there with you.
Yeah,
I'm going there
yeah,
with
yeah.
you. Now, if I remember one day your mom
Look.
cooked some shit,
Exactly.
that's why
Exactly.
I'm getting at. I'm really
Exactly.
getting at you. So I could imagine this has kind of had Drake feeling a certain type of way.
I mean, Drake has been known he's been known as kind of an emotional rapper. That's why a lot of the artists of today are the way they are as far as expression their emotions, right?
But we never seen another rapper put him in this place.
We never seen another rapper put him in his place, but
All the
it's like
strippers put him in this place, but never another rapper.
But I think that it did. I think it did hit a nerve because if we talking in terms of his rollout, if he did plan on talking about this alleged son or whatever the case may be, and it got rolled out in this way, it's like, damn, not only did you come after my character, but you came after my money and you came after my family. So I'm pretty sure it's gonna be hard to suppress this alleged record that exists. But if it's more about, I think it's gonna be more on Kanye, because even Push said it. He said Drake inherited his problems that he had with Cash Money from the times when when people would say, well, Wayne is wearing Bathing and Ape, and didn't you wear that? And they asked Wayne about it, and he's like, what the fuck who cares about the clips? Saying little subtle shit, and then Drake was just like, you ride with them, you catching the same shit. So I think it's more centered around Kanye as opposed to Pusha. Pusha is he's just the person that's the main target, but it's really more for Kanye. But Kanye's not gonna fucking battle Drake.
But I think that's what makes it complicated. But if you're Drake, do you still want Scorpion dropping this month? Do you take some time off? Do you try to catch another hit? Like, what's the move now?
Nah, you still got to drop it this month. That's why I thought that the time was of the essence for him, because you got to finish this beef to get to the album. If you push the album back, your music is doing way too well for you to push it back. So it tells us that Pusha T is on your ass and got you switching up all the type of shit you're doing. Last thing you want to be done. I'm not going to lie, just watching how Drake is handling this beef, I seen a comment on Instagram, which I kind of agree with. Like, the same way how he criticized Meek for handling the beef with Drake in 2015, and just poor execution, poor handling, and not reacting in the right ways. I got to give the same thing to Drake. He's not doing the things that we would expect. He is keeping quiet, but at this point, we want to hear something.
Right, because his music is still doing well. Like that I'm Upset record that we're all not the craziest about. That shit is like in number 16 in the Hot 100 now. So it's like his music is doing well, but the perception, right? The perception
Well,
of
since
him.
Pusha started using I'm Upset as a hashtag, it's even harder to take this song seriously.
Wow.
Small petty steps. All right, we'll see what happens.
All I know is that Drake better release his album after Father's Day, okay? That's all I know. Because if Drake released his album 3 days after, 3 days before, actually 2 weeks after Father's Day, man. The last day of June, man. Trust me.
This shit is insane.
Trust me, man.
All right, so one person at least who is not enjoying any of this Pusha and Drake feud is Vince Staples. So in a new interview with Apple Music, he shares his thoughts on rap beef and why he thinks this whole thing is pretty silly to begin with.
I feel like I wouldn't be doing my job properly now if I didn't ask you what you're making of the Drake and Pusha thing, which is ongoing every single hour, changing.
I don't care.
Nah?
I don't like rap beef. I want somebody to die. That's how I feel.
Okay.
If we're going to just be mean and talk about each other, like, I want someone to die.
So
Until somebody dies, I don't care.
Wow.
Because if we get negative, let's just get, like, all the way negative. If not, I don't care. I stay business.
And you're serious
But when
about
somebody
it?
dies, I'll pay attention. Because if we're not going there, then why are we doing it? That's my mantra on violence and aggressiveness. Not them specifically, but just the whole thing. Is like the whole, when I see you, I'm a blah, blah. And it's like, ain't nobody going to do shit. So with that being said, please don't talk about me in songs. Be nice to me, and I'll be nice to you. And I'll give you a ride in my car if it's charged.
All right, my guy Vince Staples with the gems as always. He also tweeted that rap beef is a sport. People are the government assassinated Tupac people. He's not with it at all. Do you guys think Vince has a good point?
I get his point about the whole shit with talking crazy about when I'ma see you and this is down the third, because these motherfuckers never see each other.
Because then you're going to hop over like a Starbucks counter if you see each other.
Right. But I do agree with him there because,
I better leave Rich the Kid alone, man.
No, you better leave Rich the Kid alone. I do agree with him there where I'm tired of seeing dudes beefing and it never turning into nothing. I don't want to see anybody die, but I do get what he's saying because they're being overtly like disrespectful to each other and nothing, like nobody even slap boxes. They just talk all this shit. Like I was saying yesterday, upload it, get the good caption, all types of hashtags and nothing comes from it. But Pusha and Drake, that's clearly not that. But I get what he's saying about the other shit.
Yeah, Vince Staples, I like his style, man. He's very direct, straight to the point, and he's usually takes things on a different tangent. Sometimes the extremities that we don't want to think about. So when we think about rap beef, and again, we do have to clarify, right? whatever 6ix9ine and Chief Keef got going on, that's like beef and happen to be rappers, because them niggas that look like they on some other shit.
Yeah.
But like lyrical sparring, that's what I like to call it. I know we say beef, but I'd be really shocked if like OVO were like, stop. I don't know, maybe they would. They stomp out Pusha if they saw him or something like that. I would really think, yo, this is like lyrical sparring. Like, hey, listen, I get my jabs in, and you know I'm gonna say some funny stuff, and like, yeah, there's gonna be disrespect because this is rap. We're not just here just hugging it out and everything. But all in all, after it ends, we don't have to be friends, but we'll just go our separate ways. And hip hop is built on that. Hip hop is a gladiator sport.
Absolutely.
So as a fan, I've always been fascinated by rappers getting into it like that to show, because usually it's a showcase of the fans.
Right.
I don't like when it gets to the other level where it's like, all right, man, now when I see you, this, that, and the third is gonna happen. Now, it's a very fine line you gotta really tread, because how much disrespect or how much back and forth do you really have, especially if you're not getting your way, right?
Right.
Now you might be like, fuck it. Because, you know, like, they usually say the person who fights, like, a fight is usually when someone runs out of options that they can't resolve their problems with words. All right, you said something about me. You're supposed I had a kid, son? All right, I might have to snuff you, okay? But he's right. He's right. Like, most of the shit, don't call me when they die, though. But I just hope it doesn't get to that. Man.
Yeah,
But
no,
I do
we
like
never
rap
want
competition and lyrical sport.
Well, question, do you think that some of the shit with the content that's posted, does that fuel into it? Because, I mean, they do upload, you know, this shit from their personal pages, but then when it makes it to other pages and it kind of keeps it going, do you think that now that pushes it in, like, the direction of it going left? Because when I was a kid, you know, Biggie and Pac was beefing with each other. The only time we even seen them say something other than a song was in magazines, right? So magazines, they're interviewing Biggie, and Biggie has what he has to say, which he never really said nothing crazy. And then Pac and Suge, they're wilding out, but we're reading this shit. So do you think now in today's media that shit kind of pushes it to the forefront, like makes it bigger than what it actually is?
Yeah, no, of course. But it's like with everything. You get me? Like when I look at it, it's like this new digital era we're in, it's like the playground. You know, if you have a fight like high school, it's like if you just with that person alone, yeah, you might just be like, yo, fuck you, and you might be like, fuck you, and walk away. But when everybody around like
Yo,
so you just gonna let him say fuck?
All right,
Wait,
but
you're gonna let him say
fuck? This is
fuck
why I'm asking
though.
you, Act, because and the reason why I'm asking is because I ain't gonna lie, I enjoy your page. I get up and I look at that shit every morning, right? But do you think that a lot of shit that goes on your page kind of fuels some of these like problems? Because it may start with somewhere, but then people say, yo, this shit is on academic. Like, when I seen this shit with Rich the Kid and Uzi, my man was like, yo, you ain't see this shit on Act page? So it's like, do you think that sometimes you may have a space in pushing that shit?
Do you always read the comments?
I read, well, sometimes.
Because I wonder how much it is him posting it, which is one aspect, versus people in the comments
People in
going
the comments,
crazy.
right.
And then people love that engagement.
Yeah, but you gotta realize that it's out there already, right?
Yeah.
It's out there already. What happens is that, like, these artists, and it's gonna happen naturally. You know what I mean? It's gonna happen naturally. If they see fans are siding one way or the other, and my page is just a reflection of what's going on.
Right.
You get me? So it's not like, most of the stuff we put up is not like even stuff like we exclusively find. It's like, yo, this is out there.
It's shit that's already, that's
you put it up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where we try to, at least me, I try to make sure
Captions
the
are
captions.
very
No, the
loaded.
caption gotta be
Like,
funny. The
yeah.
caption gotta be
His
funny.
Your
captions
captions
can't be
start
dry,
problems. That's
bro.
what I'm asking if he reads the comments.
His captions, I ain't gonna front, it's how he be talking when we get here, like, yo.
Reckless.
The only
nigga,
time, I've been gassing Drake on them captions just cause like, I'm so.
All right, well, I'll just say, like, you know, sometimes, and even when like, people ask me shit about Act sometimes, right? I say, like, you know, cool dude and all of that, but I think sometimes people give you too much credit for what goes on, as far as, like, the disagreements that these guys may have with these guys, because, like you said, it's already out there. So you're just like, okay, it's out there. Like, you can't delete anything. Once you put something up, you're putting it out there for the public to judge, say whatever they want to say. So I think sometimes people are a little bit harsh on you because they give you that, man, he's starting this shit. You're not starting it. You just showing, like, okay, y'all saying this, they're saying that. But it's like, it creates the conversation.
I put it like this. I wouldn't ever look at anyone and say, everybody shares blame for everything.
Right.
You get me? So I would never be like, yo, there's zero blame that goes to me with anything.
Right.
But blame goes all around. Blame goes to the people who start, the people involved, right? Yeah. Because believe me, it's a cognizant choice they're making every time to say, oh shit, I posted my music or my music video, that didn't get that many comments and likes.
Right.
But now I'm going at it with this guy. It's getting the engagement that I always wanted. I'm gonna continue it. Right now, all these other pages are picking it up, right? Of course, you have the pages like mine and others, right? World Star, whatever. Yeah, you're gonna look at those pages too to be like, yo, you now maybe put an issue that a lot of people weren't aware of, and you almost turn it into the center of conversation. But also, you look at the fans; they love that shit. You get me? Like, in a digital era where people could pick, you know what I mean? It's not like you're just only being force fed. Like, you actually could go out and find what you want. If you look at my page, I could post like, yo, did he send some positive message about black excellence? I love posting those.
Right.
He'll be like, man, get this shit out of here. 6ix9ine said fuck Chicago. What? You know what I mean? So it's like.
So do you think sometimes you might, like sometimes, and I'm not trying to like make this into an act thing. You know, I'm just saying, like, do you think sometimes like a lot of the sites play like Don King to it? Like they kind of bring it, because that's how I kind of look at it. Like, okay, when you go to like a fight, like a professional fight, you got this guy saying his piece, that guy saying his piece, and then you got like Don King in the middle of them saying, hold up, wait till June 24th, and we gonna get this going. You know what I'm saying?
Not necessarily that, but not far off. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say exactly Don King, but that's why you hear, or that's when you look at it, media. Media is also sometimes, a lot of times, the mediator between opposing sides in politics,
but also,
right?
He is very opinionated. So he's talking about the era where we were reading about Pac and Biggie in magazines. That's a little bit more balanced journalism. Like for someone like Ak, he's much more opinionated in his pieces. No, that's shifted with the digital. I'm saying, and that has affected things a lot. It's not like you're just presenting this information in a neutral way, sort of, right? Your captions are very loaded.
Yeah,
captions.
Well, it's also relating to the new generation that really engages with hip hop. You know what I mean? They don't want a dry ass like.
No, not at all. Like,
so,
you do your thing. It's just.
So honestly, it's the same thing, just in different ways. You know what I mean? And there are little tweaks here and there, but honestly, if you ask me, like I know, like even when like I post a lot of 6ix9ine, he got issues. A lot of people, man, I personally talk to him like, yo, you should stop. You get me? Now, he doesn't stop. You get me? Now I could, and at times I'm like, I'm not posting that shit. You get me?
I thought he was turning over a new leaf. Remember, he was like, I ain't doing no more beefing. Then 1 hour later, a few moments later, like.
Change.
I don't know.
All right, so some more Kanye for y'all. Let's get into some numbers, actually. So remember last time around, so Yeezus sold 327,000 first week. Life of Pablo did 250 million streams in about the first 10 days.
That's a lie. No, they exposed them.
Okay, so Ak will, let's just talk about sales for this new project. Yay. Ak, are you impressed with these numbers?
175 to 190, not really, not for Kanye standards, but I am impressed because it's 7 songs. Right. And everybody streams. So if you could get 7 songs to sell almost 200,000, that's what I'm impressed by Pusha T sales. So when even that line about like, thanks for 20K or whatever, or you got an extra 20K sales, no, for you to stream 7 songs and get 20,000 or whatever sales, it's a lot of streams. So I am impressed by the numbers, even though for Kanye West standards, they're low.
Right, so if you guys, what if he had never gone on this press run that he just did? He never did the TMZ thing, never went on the Twitter rant. You think he would have sold more or less albums?
I think,
or streamed?
I think there's a big crowd of people. And it's not the majority, but there's a big crowd of people that are like really disgusted about his comments and his angle. He went with the whole MAGA hat and all of that. And that might account for a lot of the sales that he didn't get. Because people are always anticipating a new Kanye, anything, a shirt, a hat, a fucking rant, a show, whatever. They always engaging in his product. It's not bad sales by no means, especially for 7 songs.
Right.
But I do expect more from him. Because of who he is, right? But I think that some of that shit may have hurt him a bit. You know, just a little bit. Nothing crazy, but just a little bit because, I mean, he did put together like a good enough project. It's not his best work. I don't think it's his worst work ever, but it was good enough. And I think it was enough for people to say they're going to check it out. But I think a lot of people are on a stance like, nah, I'm not fucking with him.
Does your audience feel the same way?
Even more than that, though. Because I always think about the casual consumer, which I believe, like, when Drake sells 1 million, trust me, there's about 300,000 dedicated like OVO stands, but there's a lot of like casual. Oh, we like Drake. Drake is the guy we know. He's the popular guy. So you have to rely on casual fans for like those sales. And Kanye, I believe, dominated the media and the news cycle for the last month with shit that just wasn't about an album.
About music at all.
Like a lot of people didn't know. Like
Right.
there's not everybody who's a fringe like follower fan of his was in watching the Wyoming stream like, oh my God, Kanye West is coming with the heat. No.
Right.
So they're just hearing everything they see like, what? He thought slavery was a choice? What? You know what I mean? So by the time his album was the least promoted out of all those ideologies or whatever he was trying to spew. So I can understand some people not even realizing he had the album out. He didn't really do much press before it about the album.
But I mean, to do that on that short amount of songs is kind of impressive. The thing is that, I always say this, a mixtape and an album or whatever you want to call it is all relative to how they market it to you.
Right.
They spend the same exact money on all three. Like on whatever it is, they spend, when somebody says, oh, it's a mixtape, it's really their album. But it's the idea that they put in your head like, this is a mixtape. Don't take it that serious, right? You know what I mean? Like, don't take it that serious. So, I mean, it's not bad sales. Honestly, good music seems to be doing pretty well. You know, you got all of these albums dropping. You still got the Cudi and Ye joint, Nas joint coming,
Tiana's
Tiana
coming.
too. Yeah.
But yeah, we missed the Desiigner project.
Yeah,
So
Desiigner.
Life of Desiigner dropped May 4th. There was a lot going on. Like you guys said, Kanye was making a lot of noise at that time. Things were distracting. Did you guys have a chance to listen? And what do you think about Designer's momentum right now?
Desiigner? Man, I keep telling y'all, Desiigner gotta get off of good music, man. I just don't feel like, I feel like Desiigner is part of the new class. And I know we call it mumble rap or whatever, but it's that new wave. I think good music is more for polished music. And I think a lot of his music is trendy. And when you make that trendy music and you're in a system that wants to get your shit super polished and super produced, listen to Gucci Gang beat. Them shit simple as a motherfucker. Fruity Loops do like 10 minutes and it's a hit. So I feel like he should be allowed to like mix and meddle with like the rest of the new rappers. Not that they like hold him back or nothing like that. So I don't think good music is a perfect fit for him. And also, man, I was telling y'all, listen, I don't know, man. That accent wore off for Desiigner, man.
The accent wore off.
Before, he was sounding a little bit like the Cookie Monster. But I seen one interview when people were saying that he fell off, and he sounded like Brian Gumbel, man. He said, listen, guys, I heard there's rumors that I fell off. These are not the truth. I bought a house in L.A. I got a car. I got a whip. I got a new puppy. Come here. And I'm like, yo, this is not Desiigner I know.
But honestly,
hell
I
no.
feel like, all right, with Desiigner, I did listen to the project. I only like 2 songs.
Price tag was
off of
lit.
it.
Price tag was lit.
Price tag and Tonka. I like Tonka.
Okay, there you
But I think that Desiigner would have been so much more doper if he would have came out talking like that. Like if he would have had all of that crazy shit sounding like Future and all of that, and then you'd have spoken to him, he'd be like, yeah, you know, I'm from Brooklyn. No, I
came out like Plies.
right. No, but I think that would have made him so much more iller because it would have showed that he had, like, that would have really been more personality because for a whole year and a half, we couldn't understand what he was saying.
Yeah, he snapped out of that. Like, low-key, I was watching the video thinking it was a voiceover. I was like, what is that?
I ain't gonna lie. With Desiigner talk, sometimes it looks like a karate movie. Like, you know when they say the words and it's like the voiceover and they're like, yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
You agree with Act, though, that a different label might be a better fit for him? Like, could you see him being on, like, a QC or something instead of...
I could. I do agree with Act there. I feel like he is from Brooklyn. Like, he is a Brooklyn guy, but the thing about music is that it's no longer regional. And then back in my day, when I was growing up, I had to look to the labels that were here home. Now, your most poppin' labels don't come from where you're at all the time. So a kid from New York might say, yo, I want to be on TDE one day. Or another kid from New York might say, yo, I want to be on QC. And that's very possible because you don't have to make music one way being from somewhere. Because none of the Migos or any of them, if we think in terms of, you know how people say traditional, the Migos don't sound like Outkast, right? Future doesn't sound like Ludacris. Like, all of them have different types of sounds, and they're always able to experiment and do different things. But in New York, we're very critical of, yo, if you from the Bronx, you better be able to spit 1,000 bars at any given moment.
Wayno, let me give it to you straight, bro.
What?
There's 2 minutes left on the clock, man, okay? And J.R. Smith got the ball for Desiigner, okay? We don't know what's gonna happen, all right? Basically, we're gonna see if clock management's good. I'm being honest with y'all. Listen, this is how Desiigner fucked up. Started his career, my man was a Future clone. My man, even at one point, he was performing a Future song in the club. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. You know what I mean?
Like, that really happened?
Facts. It was the joint, what was it? It was I Got the Keys joint. When Future put that out, he was in and I think he was playing around, but he was already getting a lot of hate because they were like, yo, you're like ripping off his whole like movement and sound.
Right.
And again, a lot of people said, well, that Panda joint is hot. If he keeps coming with it, shit, you never know. Future might be out of here. But of course, listen.
So much disrespect to Future. Damn.
That's what I'm saying. When the guy who's been here for years, he's gonna last. And now we're looking at Desiigner saying, you need another big hit, my brother. Like, I don't think Desiigner makes whack music. I've always told you, I think Desiigner could rap well.
I heard him rap one time and I liked it.
Comparatively, like to his peers, Desiigner raps well, okay? But he needs another big hit because he didn't cultivate a fan base. Like, there's not a fan base there. And I'm looking at new rappers just getting introduced and the new cycle, the new turnover ratio, and I'm saying, Desiigner, you're feeling out of place. You get me? And the only time I'm hearing about him is these random, odd, non-musical stories that he's pulling out his dick in New York City. Like, you know what I mean? Hopping out whips.
That was crazy.
But,
forgot about that.
But unfortunately, that's the current state for him now. Doesn't mean, and again, I remember he was referencing a Everyday Struggle episode when we talked about him. Desiigner, we're not saying you're going broke. We're not saying that like you're a bum. We're just saying that the musical expectation, because we thought you were going to be one of the guys who was running it. Yeah, you could sound like you're from another region, but as Wayno said, like the regional boundaries have broken down. But we thought you were going to be on. We thought that when we looked at New York City rappers who were still doing their thing in 2018, your name would come up in the mix constantly. Right. These days, when your name comes up, it's like, man, he had a run. It shouldn't be that. And that's my only critique about Desiigner. Right. Okay? Again, I'm not only blaming him, I'm blaming this label because I think they could have capitalized within the sphere that he's in a little bit more. I get it that he's probably the only rapper of that type on the label, but y'all gotta let him rock in the playground and also look how other people are rocking and adapt to those rules for him. Not everybody else. You ain't gotta do for Big Sean. Of course, Kanye ain't gonna do for Kanye and Pusha T and, you know what I mean? But for him, you have to let him do that. Right. And unfortunately, you know what I mean, 2 minutes left, J.R. Smith got the ball.
We don't know what's gonna happen.
Grab the Henny bottle.
Yikes, but there was some sound advice in there, minus the shade, of course.
Right.
All right, so Nipsey's out of New York this week. So earlier this year, you guys remember during a performance of Fuck Donald Trump at the Broccoli City Festival, he did put up an image of Kanye behind him wearing his MAGA hat. So he called up Angie and explained why he did it at the time.
The art or just picture that represented how people felt about the president and what the convo around dude was at the time. So I'm like, that's going to be our visual. That's what we're going to perform that record to. And they took it like, oh, Nip this, yay. You know what I mean? I don't do no subliminal diss. I just felt like as people, me coming from the street, representing the street, that's how we all felt when we seen that dude with that hat on, like it was a kick in the gut. So I want to put that in the...
All right, so that was Nipsey just trying to explain that it was nothing personal. He felt like the visuals represented the song. Obviously, so he still feels a way about this. It doesn't seem like a lot of people are still that outraged. Like, it feels like in a couple weeks we might forget this ever happened.
Right. I feel Nipsey, though. You know, I feel Nipsey because, like, if you know Nipsey or you've been around Nipsey, you got to understand where he's coming from. Like, this is a guy, I went to his neighborhood. He owns like the swap meet. He owns a Fat Burger. Like, he's really invested in his community. He's trying to build like a sort of WeWork type of situation so that people in the hood have other options. You know, he comes from the 60s. That's a heavily Crenshaw Slauson. Like, you know, he comes from a heavy historical place with gang culture. And he's trying to offer other options. And I do get him with the, you know, the kick in the gut. You see some shit like that and you're like, damn. Because Kanye, at one point or another, whether you in the street or whether you in corporate or whether you from the burbs, just being a black person, making music or being in the music, he stood for you.
Yep.
At one point or another.
He was a guy who could speak up for us. He had a louder voice. And
he had a louder
it feels
verse.
like part of that is gone for good.
Yeah, I feel like that too. I feel like a lot of that is going for good as well. So I feel where Nipsey's coming from. You know, another thing, like, Nipsey is like the epitome to me of new longevity. You know, it took him a long time to create his first album, and he's still on the run for his first album. Like, we see a lot of albums come out and they fizzle out. He's collaborated with Puma. He's got a lot of different things coming along for him. He's on his new tour. He did 2 sold-out shows on Irving Plaza back-to-back. Salute to Nipsey, but I feel exactly where he's coming from.
Yeah, nah. Again, I had the opportunity, and you know, me and Nipsey, like, we had a little back and forth before, but I had the opportunity to really talk to Nipsey on the phone, and we, of course, like, ironed out whatever issues we had, and also, like, we spoke at length about just more than just, like, whatever current petty issues. It was just more about the culture, where we come from, the people we look like clearly, and, you know what I mean, just what we're standing for, and sometimes images we send out and who's affected by it.
Right.
And one thing I did get from that is that Nipsey's very much in touch and in tune with the people that he represents. He represents a particular set of people that he feels when Kanye or any individual is putting out a message like, hey, this is to be like uplifted or whatever. And he even says to me, he says, listen, I'm one of the only entertainers, I'm gonna use my platform. He's like, Kanye has his own platform, I have my own platform.
Right.
And I think this is completely genuine.
Yeah.
So I hope he gets a chance to have that conversation with Kanye in private though.
Yeah.
Because again, when it was just, like, even with me and him, when it was just tweets, I was like, you didn't really get each other. But after talking for like 2 or 3 hours on the phone, like, we understood each other, okay? And you know what I mean? We didn't have to agree on every single point.
Right.
But we understood why, like, I'm remembering that conversation. I know exactly why he put Kanye West's face up there. Definitely not to disrespect Kanye. It might come across like that. It might come across like, oh, he's dissing. But a kick in the gut, being disappointed, and also trying to show people that he represents that, we could have a balance to this.
Yeah.
100%.
You know what? Social obligation is a very, very big thing. And I don't like that in media now, everything, when somebody gives their opinion, is looked at as disrespect, because this is an abbreviation for
We're always
disrespect.
quick to attack.
Yeah, say, oh, he did. No, it's like I said, when you look at Nipsey and the type of person he is, and like you said, like the type of people he represents and who he represents for, he represents the disenfranchised, the people. That's why we was having this conversation about jail reform. Like, I always have this saying where, like, you can't go to Mars and tell Martians how to live, right? Because people in their village, they know what they're affected by, and I think that's the biggest thing for Nipsey, is his people. And the message he's just trying to get across is like, wow, like, that's what you on? Like, for real? Okay, well, this is what I'm on. And he's expressing that, so salute to Nipsey, for standing up.
I feel the same way. We need artists like him who are going to speak up and not just tweet that the Ye album is fire. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, we know he's going to drop a good project, but I think this is bigger than just his music. All right, guys, so today we want to introduce a brand new segment called Heat Check, where we want to highlight artists who we think are buzzing and might be around for a bit.
Lil Lack.
We're going to start today with Juice WRLD. He's 19 years old from Illinois, recently dropped his debut project, Goodbye and Good Riddance. He's had a couple big singles, including All Girls Are the Same and Lucid Dreams. Plus, he just signed a pretty big deal with Interscope, got his own label and a $3 million deal. Let's check out his video.
I have these lucid dreams where I can't move a thing, thinking of you in my bed. You were my everything.
So this kid's really interesting, and you can hear that, like he said, he's influenced by anything from Ozzy Osbourne to Chief Keef. I think that reflects in the music. What do you guys think about him so far?
This kid's fire. The 2 singles that he got out are pretty much the ones that are driving his music towards the whole world. But if you listen to his tape, the one that just came out, the Goodbye and Good Riddance, like you'll kind of get like his sound, and it is kind of like that. And that's why I was saying to Wayno before, when we discussed Post Malone, I was very adamant in saying, Post Malone, we gotta still say he's hip hop, because this kid is hip hop. And this kid, if you haven't heard of him or haven't heard his music, He sounds like Post Malone with like a Uzi, Chief Keef type flow, okay? And he's gonna be considered hip hop because he's black. He's clearly a hit maker with those 2 songs leading out the gate. I could imagine Interscope was probably licking their chops. They're giving out a label deal with $3 million. They would probably say, just take it, man. Here, just take the Brinks
Yeah,
truck.
he used to be a good writer, which is that's important.
I think if he could continue to make hits, he has a trajectory. This is an early trajectory. It's going to change week by week and month by month. But he could possibly go on an Uzi-like trajectory because he's making music that really gravitates to people, not only because it sounds good, but like
it's relatable. A lot of love and heartbreak,
relatable.
and
Yeah, and if you listen to Uzi's, pretty much all this shit is about love and heartbreak and feelings like that.
Well, I salute him because you know the record. That's the record Lucid Dreams. It has the same sample that Nas used on It Was Written on the intro. You know, fake thug, no love, you get the slug. He used the same sample. It's really early for me because I haven't heard a lot of shit from him, but he seems like to be on the right path. Salute to Lil Bibby because he's actually Lil Bibby's artist. You know, a lot of people, Lil Bibby's still very young, but he's getting his executive on and going and grabbing guys from Chicago or Illinois, where he's from, and putting them on. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes because now we're in that space where, remember we was talking about before, like, we got a lot of littles. So I wouldn't say he's not a carbon copy of a Uzi because even Uzi's doing music with him, right?
Yeah, Uzi and him got some music coming out.
Yeah, but I mean, it looks similar and shit. It's just kind of funny seeing like an artist that looks like another artist make somewhat of the same music, but you know, he's not bad. You know?
And you know what's funny? Somebody they introduced me to a couple. He was one of them too, like that just recently got signed. I think it was months ago. And for every one of those artists, I like looked them up real quick. And I had like a mental like checklist that I needed to see for me to say, this nigga's gonna be on. I was like, they got dreads, colored, got a face tat or something like that, and just there's a look. There's a look. We gotta admit, there's a look.
Right.
And he fits right in. He fits right in. I will say though, I hope his music evolves a little. Right now it's very raw, and we do love when an artist just comes out and it's super raw, but we do like evolution too. Like he raps a lot about or sings a lot about just a huge addiction to drugs. I'm not too sure if that's his real life at 19, but I'm hoping that evolves, okay? If I'm a kid listening to his music, I'm trying some drugs. If I'm an impressionable mind listening to his music, I probably is gonna do some of the stuff he says, which isn't that good. So though it sounds good, I'm hoping even if you're self-medicating, you don't want to just like almost promote it.
Yeah, it's like, because I say this all the time, it's like Percocet is not giving out endorsement deals. So, you know what I mean? All you're doing with those type of things are becoming more of the problem when we have opioid problems, not only in the suburbs, but we got them in the hood as well. But I do agree with you there, you know, where he's gonna have to change, but he's only 19 years old.
Yeah, so hopefully even like a couple years, the music sounds a lot different,
you know,
but it's still great.
He making some money, you know, he got a $3 million deal, so maybe some of that stuff will change up, but I think the realest thing about music is when it's relatable. So if there are people that he's relating to and they're growing together, that's the biggest thing. A lot of our favorite artists came out at a very young age. The key to success in this game is being able to grow with your audience. You know, being able to have a 10 to 20-year career. I mean, when Drake came out, you know, he was 19, but like officially, how old was Drake when So Far Gone came out? He was in his like mid or early 20s.
Yeah, like 22, 23.
Like around that time, right? So it's like over the past 10 years, he's elevated and he's grown into a superstar, and he still has like a core fan base that always supports him, even when he loses battles, right?
Do they still support him, core fan base?
No, of course he's supported. Actually, that's another point which I forgot to mention. Everybody still love Drake, man. Drake just
they do.
No more sneak this and talking about people fear your pen, bro.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, that's the whole key. I mean, I think Juice WRLD has a nice, bright career ahead of him, especially seeing what they're trying to do, even with Bibby. It's like you got an artist like Bibby who's now stepping into being an executive. That's the evolution of the business. I mean, a few years ago, we were talking about Bibby somewhat in the same space.
Do you know if Bibby is a part of this deal, or did he just sign directly?
I believe that Bibby's not a part of it as an artist because he's still over on RCA, but I believe that he has.
Does he has points on the deal? Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
I think
okay. So through his label. Okay.
It's through Bibby's label on Interscope.
Bet.
You know,
Okay.
so.
Got it.
Yeah, so salute to Bibby. Like man, Bibby's only like 22 or 23, executing big $3 million deals and shit like that. So.
Yeah, and the only reason why I brought up the drugs thing is that like I learned from not only even just kind of watch how Uzi is changing, just even him kind of admitting how his addiction has kind of done certain stuff to him. But we watched Lil Peep lose his life, and even though yes he's young and the music is raw, and of course the message around it or how he codes it will probably evolve. Man, if I forgot the lyrics, I should have it here. One of these songs, he's literally just saying, "I just love drugs." Like, you know what I mean? And it almost felt like a cry out for help. And I was like, do we just still turn up, or do we?
But I don't
look
think
into
a lot
it deeper
of. But
right
a lot of these things, I don't be looking at them as cries for help, because a lot of these artists, when you try to talk to them, they don't want to hear that shit.
Yeah.
And my thing, you know, the era I grew up in, like doing drugs was never cool to us. Like the most somebody did was smoke weed. Nobody was doing coke or smoking crack or acid or none of that shit. So it's like, honestly, I think that these kids got to just think about who they want to be 5 years down the line.
That's the thing. It's so hard to do when you're young.
I mean, it's trendy to rap about drugs, though. Man.
It's trendy
for some reason, it's just like people just like rapping about sipping lean, and like, I don't know why, but it is.
You watch a documentary about lean, and then you got to look at A$AP Yams passing away, and you got to look at Pimp C and all these other brothers and sisters who have these addictions because they're going through depression or mental illnesses, where they're taking themselves out of their reality just for an hour and then doing it again.
I will say this though, and this is probably a conversation and subject for a much like larger discussion, but I think, you know, most of these artists now are depressed. Like, the fuck are y'all depressed at 16 and 17? I think these niggas is taking these drugs and getting themselves depressed.
Hold on.
No, really, because these drugs, some of these drugs, I don't even know what they do to you. But they get you on a euphoric high that when you're off the drugs, you feel down.
But you want to know why?
You get me?
The artists
but naturally, most of them, I would probably go to say, and I'm not saying all, but I would probably say, it can't be this many depressed people.
It's not, but you know what? It's like it's no different than when you see your favorite artist with a pair of sneakers on or clothes. You want to do what they do, and that's because people are rapping about drugs but not talking about the side effects or all the things it has, because that's the part that they're embarrassed about. They're not embarrassed about doing drugs, but they're embarrassed to talk about these seizures that they have or these deaths that occur with their friends. They don't talk about that shit. They just talk about how lit it is to be high. Yeah. And when it all boils down to it, you got to think, man, like we just lost Fredo too. It's like all of these different things, somebody has to step. I mean, like you said, this is a larger and bigger another conversation that we have to have one day, which I would love to have.
Coping and mental health, people have a hard time coping with things, and drugs, of course, not the answer. Right. But sometimes it's the easiest escape. So
and I wasn't trying to like ruin my man Juice WRLD.
Our first heat check.
I'm just, you know what I mean? I'm just giving. If you haven't heard his music, you got to go check it out.
Yeah.
I'm bumping his songs religiously recently. I think you would enjoy it. We have to watch those.
We want him to stay talented and stay with us.
And stay with
us.
You know, my son is my A&R.
Keep making good music.
Juice WRLD, so
he's a talented kid. Go check him out. And before we go today, the Everyday Struggle podcast is launching this Friday on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts.
Meet us here.
Meet us here. We're going to be highlighting the biggest segments and biggest stories of the week, maybe with some more ranting and commentary from these two lovely gentlemen.
Fry Act one
check
day.
it out. It's dropping this Friday.
Fry Act one
If y'all ever want to hear more Nadeska opinions and
this is where it's finally going to happen.
Right? You got to kick it off, man. You know, a lot of people be like, why do you men just talk all the time? Let the women speak.
Right.
All right, the moderator finally speaks.
Right, and we got to get our bloopers popping off one day.
And the Act did such an incredible Chappelle impersonation before.
Right, we got to get our bloopers popping. Right. We record everything though, right?
I hope so. I'm not even sure. Chops?
Right.
Definitely.
Complex the feds. All right, y'all. So we'll see you here tomorrow, 11 a.m. And check out our podcast dropping this Friday on everywhere. See you later.
Peace. Erase that ego off an Act shirt.
This is fire, man.